Today I'm going to talk about Last House, in which accomplished author Jessica Shattuck artfully balances historical fiction with family saga. I really like this book and how the author ties together all the generations from the 1950s to now. It's almost like a review of major world events for people of my age, such as the death of Martin Luther King and the Vietnam War and the struggle for equality in all areas. The story begins in 1953 in the third person with young American lawyer Nick Taylor en route to Iran to negotiate the resumption of the production of oil after a, quote, thorny political impasse. And right away we're given hints of the many themes to come, such as inequality, corporate greed, corruption, democracy versus dictatorship, women's roles, family relationships, and the social changes that come with each generation. Nick is married to Bet. They and their two small children, Catherine and Harry, live in idyllic Mapleton in Connecticut. Nick is pleased that he has risen from a humble religious background to provide his wife and family with an enviable lifestyle. Bet's family was well established and successful, and she had intentions to pursue a doctorate in American literature. But this dream was, of course, in 1953, set aside when she married Nick and started a family. While Nick traversed the globe to ensure ongoing oil production, which he views as a sign of progress, Bet is left to look after the children and try to find some meaning in her life. After Nick is promoted for his good work, he and Bet purchase an idyllic country home and sanctuary, Last House in Vermont. The middle part of the book is told in the first-person view of daughter Catherine, and this is where my interest was really piqued. It's 1968, and Catherine strays as far away as possible from her traditional privileged background and joins a revolutionary newspaper in New York, The Leaflet, as a columnist and reporter. This draws her into contact with all manner of anti-establishment persons and protests. But the movement becomes radical, and Catherine, and in turn her family, have to examine their viewpoints and consequences. The story takes us all the way to 2026 as yet another generation has to find its way. And there's some romance, some tragedy, and some surprises along the way. There's a lot to ponder in this book. It nicely portrays how the ideals and fears of each generation are influenced by the previous generation. It's worthy of some serious contemplation and evaluation of how we come to think and act as we do, with many cautions to consider the consequences. And with all the disagreements of today in politics and viewpoints, I found it strangely comforting to recognize that each generation will have its conflict and its fears, and each generation will think it's right. The issues are just different. Or maybe not so much, but somehow society finds its way. This is a good read. Last House by Jessica Shattuck.